Okay, so this here is another PancreasNoWork video. It is Nagash, Warhammer's biggest jerk, in quotations. I think he's a goblin.
Wrong.
I've been recommended this one. So let's get right into it while we're still waiting for Digimon Time Stranger to finish downloading.
In Warhammer Fantasy, something about the good guy characters is that even when they do horrid things, they do it out of the love for their people and nation that they have. Karl Franz,
Yay.
Teclis, even some evil characters like Lev
I'm
and
still worried
Karstein
about
do some
Teclis.
pretty
What the
dark
fuck
things
is he?
out of wanting their people to survive
Seems
and
like
prosper. They
seems like a
believe these
monster.
things are necessary evil to survive in the horrid world.
Just in terms of
they live
power
in.
scaling.
They try to be good people despite the cards they've been dealt, oftentimes forcing them to do dark acts. With that in mind, there's something to be said about a character who is just an unrelenting piece of shit at every turn for no better reason than because why not? No, this is another video about the Skaven, though they will feature in it. Allow me to tell you the story of Nagash, Warhammer's biggest douchebag. Nagash was
Oh
born
wait,
in
no,
ancient
Nagash
Hector
was the
thousands
Egyptian
upon thousands
guy.
of years
Why was I
before
thinking
Warhammer
goblin?
Fantasy mostly takes place. He was the first son of the reigning.
Oh, let's say, for everyone was a skelly man, but there's no picture of that.
Thousands of years before Warhammer Fantasy mostly.
Okay, and
place.
Nagash is also like a big power player, isn't he?
Ruler, which at first makes you probably think.
So this was he stole information from the Dark Elves, right? And learned necromancy. And then a bunch of like Romanians and pirates stole it and then made vampires.
Oh, he's gonna be doing great. He'll be king and all that good stuff. And in literally any other kingdom, you'd be right. But in Nehekara, the firstborn son doesn't become king. It's the secondborn one. The firstborn is stuck being sent off to join the mortuary cult to learn all about death and keeping pacts with the Nehekaran gods and all that stuff that doesn't involve ruling with unlimited power. And Nagash hated it. He was a sociopath.
Okay, well at least they have a purpose.
Wanted to be king.
There was,
however, a brief moment in time where his father Katap led a military campaign against Elizabeth but fell ill. Whereupon Nagash took over the campaign for him and briefly ruled a city he saved as a king for 6 months. This happened before he was forced to join the mortuary cult, so not only did he get power taken away from him, now he had a taste of what he...
So, question, because I'm going to pause this here. I don't play Final Fantasy XIV, this could sound like a weird segue. But on a scale of, like, 1 to fucking Desert Lalafels, how horrible war crimes is this man going to commit?
Could have had if he was born just a bit later. Also, his dad removed all records of him actually doing the ruling of the city and leading the campaign, which just had him referred to as a brave warrior. Bit of a dick move, but given what Nagash is going to be getting up to shortly, probably not undeserved. Thankfully, during his father's funeral, a solution to all his problems was practically handed to him on a silver platter. Diplomats from another kingdom arrived.
Let's go with the Drukhari again, baby.
Nagash's kingdom as a sacrifice. Nagash promptly went, "I assure you, everyone, I can handle it from here," and stole them away. When he was embalming his dad's corpse, he realized that dark magic must have played a part in his death, and he correctly assumed that the 3 pointy-eared assholes in front of him were at least somewhat responsible. So he stuck them in his dad's pyramid, filled the entire thing with lethal traps and whatnot, and told them they can either teach him magic or join his father in the grave. Naturally, they decided to help him, though being elves, they of course made sure to tell him that he was still inferior the entire time. Not that he gave a shit, he got that spicy forbidden knowledge either way. He learned how to do magic without relying on the gods, all about chaos and the fun stuff that entails.
Yeah, I see this one picture everywhere. Someone went really hard on this one.
Not all of it at once like the elves, but hey, better than nothing. Eventually, the Dark Elves, of course, managed to escape, but right as they got to the exit, they found good old Nagy waiting for them. He told them that they either had to beat him in a magical duel to escape or get back in that tomb, so help them, and the elves figured, we're elves, we got this. But in fact, they did not have this, and Nagash ate all of their souls. And this is where things really started to go well for Nagash, and poorly for everyone who isn't Nagash. As a quick side note, though, those 3 elves were also involved in the false flag operation that started the massive war between the High Elves and the Dwarfs. So if you ever wondered how the hell all of the horrible things of the Warhammer world managed to come to power, including Nagash, it's because Malekith and his Dami Mommy threw a hissy fit powerful enough to destabilize nations. Anyways, Nagash, he commensurated his newfound power by murdering his brother's court and burying him alive. Already off to a fantastic
start, a lot of emotions
ran
through my head in that one.
Into his magical research. He invented necromancy. Well, I mean, alright, not technically, but he was the first one to make meaningful progress with it. Meaningful progress here, meaning potions of eternal life.
I was like, man, Marco, he didn't didn't create
But no one said
well, he
doesn't get
kind of
shit
did.
done. He did almost the whole
No, he was
evil
always
magic
there,
shebang.
but
Mass sacrifices, torture,
he's like the
kidnapping
necromancer.
people to sacrifice and torture. The only thing I don't think he did was make pacts with dark gods, because then he wouldn't be the one in charge. He wrote 9 books, creatively called the 9 Books of Nagash, which, fair enough, I guess. These contained the secrets of all he had learned, though because he put a portion of himself in each of them, only he could get the
32 lessons
Why
of
he
Vivek.
needed to get the power out of the books he wrote,
Whatever
I don't
the number
know,
was.
but I guess
I don't
even
know, I didn't
without
pay
the
too much
knowledge, there's still
attention to
incredibly
Vivek.
powerful magic artifacts.
There's way
so
too much
maybe
Dark
that's
Elf
why.
lore.
Or just because he's a dick. That's always a good reason to go for when you're talking about Nagash. Then he started his trend of building massive black pyramids, at least partially made out of warpstone. First he bankrupted Khemri building it, not only wasting the treasury, but thousands of lives on top of that. Then he figured that if he was going to build...
I will say this. I love me some sword and sandals. Love me that, like, fantasy desert vibe.
That 6,125-year-old tumor. The Sumerian god kings that reigned for centuries summoned forces beyond their comprehension to inhabit their bodies. They became vessels for beings that lived for blood and chaos. Eons of slumber have not made an Amalek, father of sacrifice, any kinder.
Do not go into the ancient tunnels under the cigarettes.
Do not see the names of the kings that shook the earth.
Do not worship the terrible and grand power of language.
He has begun to stir.
You start putting like weird Eldritch Monoliths in there, I'm sold.
This, you might as well full send it, and did pretty much the same thing to all of Nehemia.
Let's go into the
Ziggurats. Stomach him turning their once mighty nation into a continent-sized decaying remnant of what once was, so basically the city of Chicago scaled up, so they all rebelled. Nagash responded by raising a massive army of the dead and then killing his wife, who for the record was his brother's wife before he murdered his brother. He was also abusive and probably sexually assaulted her, because at this point there were only so many ways to make him even more of a shitbag, the writers probably just felt obliged to cross that off the list. Despite all this, he assumed no one was actually going to challenge him once he rose to power. Surely no one was dumb enough to do that. He was very wrong, and the armies of
Notice they were not Tomb Kings yet. Of course, I've habit calling them that.
Kings cast him out of power and murdered all of his lieutenants. Turns out a 7-nation army could hold him back. Who knew? Of course, he slipped away like the weasel he is, and they couldn't destroy his pyramid, but hey, he's gone. Sure, the land's in crippling debt.
Oh, what was it? The pyramid reminds me of, Dark Sun's the prison yeah, just Dark Sun in general. I was thinking the prison pentide, like books, but that was the thing in Dark Sun too. Was in order to like, so long story short, magic absorbs stuff from the earth. Evil halfling wizard went too fucking hard with magic, and the planet was nearly destroyed. Now there's a big red sun. Everything sucks. People are killing each other for dirty fucking like sewer water because that's the only water they got. And so like the sorcerer kings, who were kind of like generals after they all like backstabbed the halfling wizard guy, they all started going for power, and they realized if they can build like a ziggurat, they could actually transcend into being a dragon, which is like more of like a demon kind of like turbo wizard. But yeah, they would build those like giant structures.
Famine, the gods are pretty much gone because Nagash killing his wife broke an ancient pact, and barbarians from everywhere else are raiding across the land willy-nilly. But hey, at least the big bad was defeated once and for all. It turns out the big bad wasn't defeated once and for all. Nagash wandered
The big bad necromancer wasn't defeated
like
after he died?
evil. At one point he died, but he decided that dying is cringe, so he just possessed his body and kept on walking. He saw some Skaven, murdered some Skaven, and then took a bite out of the warpstone they had on him. Instantly, 2 things happened from this. 1, it was like he ate a senzu bean and recovered a pretty sizable portion of his power, and 2, his senses got all screwed up like that one scene from Gravity Falls where the guy has an eyeball for a mouth and he just kind of watered the desert aimlessly for over a century. To fast track things a little bit, after that
I've never seen Gravity Falls, but that sounds awful.
He saw how they were mining warpstone, took it over, and then turned it into a magical fortress called... seriously? Nagash Azar. because of course that's what he called it. He fought some Skaven to a standstill and made a truce with them, which neither side expected to last for more than 5 minutes, then made not only his evil armor, but his crown of sorcery. The armor is whatever, you know, it's just standard evil bad guy armor, but the crown is important, and it'll show up later. By this point, vampires started bothering him, because someone else found his formula for eternal life, but couldn't get the recipe quite right. The first time someone tried to contact him, he magically strangled them from a continent away, but eventually he figured these super powerful undead might make for some good minions and recruited them to his cause. He also may have been guiding them the whole time, but either way, he's got his new lieutenants and decided that he'd take another crack into Hekara, and so he did. And a lot of people died. Like, a lot. His forces started wreaking
What does
havoc,
that mean
and
for
the chief king of the
necromancer,
realm,
though?
Akadizar, was taken from his throne and imprisoned by Nagash. And then the Skelly Man decided it was time to up the ante. How, you might ask? Why, by casting a spell that would resurrect every last corpse on the planet under his control. All of them. Ever. This was after not only the Great Chaos Invasion, but the massive war between elves and dwarfs, as well as the Elven Civil War and Malekith's hissy fit. So there were a few corpses lying around. The stakes have risen somewhere into the stratosphere by this point, and what didn't help was that Nagash, while doing this, decided to kill every single living being in Nehekara first just to piss off Alcadizar. Alcadizar also needed to be alive as a focus for the power of the spell. Since he ruled Nehekara, he would serve as a symbol for everything in it to focus on, so Nagash could murder everything in it. But I have no doubt in my mind Nagash mostly just kept him alive to be a shitheel. But he forgot about one crucial detail. Those goddamn rat people. They realized that every corpse on the planet included Skaven corpses, which are always plentiful,
so
and that either way, world
rats.
domination would include wiping them out. So the Skaven freed Alcadizar, gave him a dagger.
I could find no images of Akadizar. I have a cool picture of something vaguely pharaoh looking.
Pure warpstone that
anyone remember God? Does anyone remember that movie Gods of Egypt?
The moment he touched it, and told him to go stab the guy at the center of a hurricane of magic. And right as everything but he and Nehekara was dead, including the plant life, he cut off Nagash's hand. He wasn't dead, but at least the spell hadn't gone global. And thus did an epic battle for the fate of the world begin, in which the Skaven were actually using magic the whole time to help Akadizar, because that's how afraid they were of Nagash. He made Skaven willingly work with other people and not screw them over because of how afraid they were of him. Jesus fuck. Epic battle occurs then ends. I'm sure there's some stuff to say in it, but I mean, it's an epic fantasy battle. The good guy ends in the wind. What the fuck did I just say? Nagash is dead.
It ends in the wind.
Of course, since
okay, I've had worse.
Caused Nagash to have an oopsie whoopsie with the spell, all of the Nehekarans that died in the past came back with varying levels of sentience. The Tomb King started infighting, and now there's all sorts of claims to the throne and a whole ton of shit going on.
Oh yeah, that's right, and they're all technically the rightful heir.
Nagash is gone now, and this time the good guys actually beat the big bad for certain, even if it was at a measurable cost. Definitely this time. He's definitely gone.
He's definitely gone.
That Nagash was not actually gone. He basically invented necromancy. Are you surprised? I mean, seriously.
No.
Now, of course, he was very weakened, both from the sword and from the souls of all the people he
Wait
killed.
for some shit where he becomes like a black moon in the sky.
So it took him 1,111 years to finally come back again. When he did come back, he had to find all of his magical stuff, and he had to reforge his hand since Alcadizar cut it off.
Dude, could you imagine being like that? Like, time means nothing to you at that point. You just keep going.
At the same time as Sigmar Unbroken, the still just a man, the myth, the legend himself. And Sigmar, being a big fan of smashing things with his hammer, proceeded to smash Nagash with his hammer. To be fair, he had to wear Nagash's crown after he found it in order to resist Nagash's magic, but he still won. I mean, he's Sigmar. Of course he won. He's the best god emperor and the second best emperor in Warhammer. And now Nagash was definitely gone. For certain.
Humans will always win, bitch.
Definitely gone. It turns out that Nagash was, he's not gone, all right. Of course, this time it took a lot longer for him to come back.
Man, you just keep losing, huh? Everyone just keeps losing.
And quietly direct things for a few thousand years, and more directly guide Arcan, but he didn't do too much otherwise. And then the end times happened. Naturally, the big man was due for a comeback tour. He started it by resurrecting himself by having Arcan sacrifice Tyrion and Alariel's daughter, the Fey Enchantress, and Volkmar the Grim. Presumably several thousand other peasants and such as well on top of them, because this Lich can.
I mean, realistically, if you're a necromancer, you just need bodies, right? What better time to make a comeback tour than the end times?
Cannot do anything without being a prick about it. He shows back up on all of his pointy-hatted glory, and literally everyone on the planet, including the Chaos Gods, starts shitting their pants. Because this time around, he ate the god of the dead and caused the dead around the world to resurrect. Now that he's back, first order of business, obliterate Nehekara, which he promptly did. Sledger did put up a fight and say the most badass line in all of Warhammer history, but he still got exploded by Nagash in the end. After he was done with revenge about 10,000 years in the making, Nagash drained the power of the dwarf god Valaya, because one god clearly wasn't enough.
Wait, what's the line?
All of the undead on the planet under his control and starts forcing the entire wind of death into Sylvania. By this point, he decided that it was safe for him to take a bit of a breather, so he decided to chill in his coffin for a while. Also, remember the Black Pyramid he built? He floated it all the way to Sylvania. Imagine picking up the Great Pyramid.
Totally not Stargate.
of Giza and floating them over to Romania only doubled the distance because the Warhammer world is huge. He used it to start becoming even more powerful, but he once again made a massive mistake. He forgot he existed on the same planet as the Skaven. By this point, the Skaven had decided to become part of Chaos because the writers needed the end times to happen eventually, and that was a good way to do it. A massive demon army led by a traitorous lieutenant of his shows up, and while it was held back thanks to Nagash's power,
big
the Skaven sneaked
miscalculation
into the pyramid and blew it up with magical nuclear warheads. Understandably a little bit annoyed, he destroyed every single demon on the field with one massive blast of magic. Then realizing that between blowing his load too early and with his pyramid gone, he had no way to achieve godhood in time, so he reluctantly went to ally with the living. Teclis did try to get him on his side
I feel
a while
that, man.
ago,
It happened
but
to me
Nagash
too.
was still up his own ass and turned him down, and also probably disintegrated the elf he sent to ask him. Also, another quick side note,
granted,
how he
I
had him
blew my
achieve
load more
godhood
in
after
the
devouring
literal
two
sense in
entire
that case.
gods is an excellent example of Games Workshop's writing ability. Anyways, he goes to Athaloran to meet up with the other incarnates
The deep
of the Winds of
lore
Magic,
that
and
you'll
they
never
barely
know.
managed to squeak out an alliance. To seal the deal, he gave Manfred to
In
the
an
living as a
ARG
sort of
fashion.
prisoner exchange, which was pretty
It's
funny.
like spaced
Manfred
across
is even
like
hey, wait,
27
what the hell,
videos.
man, before getting put in a box or something. He also mocks Tyrion and Alariel for not being to save their daughter and prevent his resurrection, because of course he does. During negotiations, Chaos shows up to stop the alliance, and Nagash brutalizes anything chaotic in front of him, and solos a bloodthirster. Nagash, giant douchebag, but great in a fight. Everyone still alive teleports to Middenheim to stop Chaos from overtaking the world, and Nagash continues on as he has and one-shots anything stupid enough to get in front of him before resurrecting their corpse. See, this is why I love him, or at least love to hate him. He's such an unrepentant asshole, but he does.
Oh yeah, how does Demons of Nurgle compare to Undead? Because they're already rotting and diseased. How does that fight work? I mean, they could rot more, I guess. Like, have their limbs slop off, but...
with such style that I'm still happy he's around. During the fight, he eventually fought Kabanda the Bloodthirster, which required a bit more effort out of him. First, he had to choke him out like a bitch before erasing him from the world. As the climax of the battle is coming up, they go to stop the Chaos Rift from overtaking the world, and then, Manfred decided that now is the time to betray everyone and stabs Gelt in the back. Tyrion stabs Manfred in the back in return, but it's too late.
Wait, Tyrion, is that the dude that's like
Chaos, Nagash loses all of his
the most opulent motherfucker in the world?
Dust while panicking. And thus does the story of Nagash come to a close. Definitely.
100%.
It turns out that I have about 3 jokes to work with per video because I am not clever or funny, and also that Nagash's story did not come to a close. After the world exploded,
not.
Chaos stuck
How'd you
him
kill
in a
something that
crypt of
doesn't die?
forgotten moments after the end times, which sounds like some BS nothing, but whatever. Sigmar frees him to help him restart reality, and they start beating the snot out of monsters even the Chaos Gods were afraid to mess with. And he's a god too now. He's finally moving up in the world. Except now he has 7 other incarnate gods to deal with of roughly equal strength to him on top of the Chaos Gods. He did pimp slap Marathi when she tried to sleep with him though, so at least his treatment of women hasn't changed after all these years. Then again, it's Marathi, and if there was ever an elf that deserved to be slapped upside the head over and over, it's definitely her. He immediately begins planning to
but I
betray
love her
Sigmar
for
and
it.
everyone else, because at this point I'm pretty sure being an asshole is a core part of his soul or something. Speaking of souls, he also claims all the souls of those who die as belonging to him on the basis of do trust me on this one. That's why you
Dragon
really
elf,
hate
sick,
Sigmar
yeah.
now, because the Stormcast get reforged and
snake
everyone
elf.
gets a sliver of their
We're
soul each time
snakes.
they die. But I get ahead of myself. Nagash ate all the other fucking diabetes, man. Nagash ate all of the other death gods, which somehow still didn't boost his power above everyone else, because Nagash
is
can
best,
never win.
yeah.
Chaos invaded,
Speaking
and
of
Nagash is
Lex,
actually the last one of Sigmar's pantheon
because Nick is best. I learned Mervamon's gonna be in Time Stranger.
to leave him. Unsurprisingly, on his way
They're
out, he
added to
basically
the
kicks
team.
Sigmar in the balls by leaving his forces to rot while Chaos runs rampant, and Nagash goes back home to the realm of death. Somehow, having not have expected this, Sigmar is thoroughly sick of his shit by this point and runs to Shyish to beat the hell out of him, but was so mad he kind of forgot about the whole Chaos invasion running rampant thing going on. Sigmar loses the battle because Archaon tricked him and made him get rid of Galmaraz, and everything goes super grim and dark and looks like Games Workshop is going to end Times AOS before it even begins. Nagash tries to solo Archaon, gets his shit pushed in, and then goes to pout in a corner and wait for someone else to handle Chaos, because that's a good idea. Let the people who grow stronger through rampaging violence have free reign of the universe to rampage and be violent with. I see no way this can go wrong. This is a stellar idea. Not a flaw in sight for this plan. Thankfully for Nagash, though, Sigmar shows back
let's
up
be
with
honest, Warhammer,
Stormcast
everyone
after
acts
going
fucking
after all
stupid.
this. Of course, once he's back, he doesn't team up with Sigmar, this time because he thinks he can handle Chaos on his own after he had some time to meditate and gain power or whatever. Once again, he fights Archaon, and take a guess how the fight goes. Hazard a guess. Go on. You'll never believe it. And, yeah, Nagash loses again. What a surprise. At least he didn't get his body destroyed this time. He just
Wait, did these pog face
Nagash
me?
loses again. What a surprise.
Yes.
At least he didn't get his body destroyed this time, he just pussed out like a bitch. He also hates the Identity for stealing souls, Slanesh and the various elf gods for basically not just handing elf souls over to him, and everyone
That's such a
else for
sick
having the
symbol,
gall to not
Slanesh.
just die and let him be in charge for all of eternity. What a guy. Oh, and he also started building pyramids again. Several of them this time, so he can make
Why are they
rituals
upside
to
down?
drain all magic into
I guess
his
they can
realm,
fly
and
now.
once again be able to kill everything everywhere. Say what you want about this sociopathic asshole, but he's very determined and certainly has a sense of showmanship. The Chaos Gods themselves even popped by to watch all this go down, and at first it was going pretty
That
well.
pog
And then the
face or
pyramids
surprise
all blew up.
Pikachu
Oh
face,
boy,
that's the
I wonder
original
what
pog
race of
face.
people could have done that. Yeah, he also doesn't learn from his mistakes, like, ever. At first he was laughing at the Chaos Gods, saying he'd overtake them, then they laughed at him for being so stupid to let the exact same thing as before happen to him, only this time scaled up, and then he started laughing again because he still considered it a success. Turns out the ritual failing still made a magical black hole that drained magic towards its center that he could kind of go into for a bit and absorb power. Also, it caused the awesomely named Necroquake, which
Tibia,
developed all of
Mariner,
reality and
and
death magic and
Warhammer.
started making spooky ghosts pop up all over the place. He also unveiled the Ossiarch Bone Reapers, which are
I mean,
the undead
the
space marines, to
pirate
Sigmar's
vampires look
fantasy
sick.
space marines. So for a little bit, it looked like Nagash was actually making meaningful progress. Then Teclis dispelled the Necroquake and blew Nagash right the hell up. Arcan got chucked into the void and
Fucking
magical white
Teclis.
light that is the outskirts of the realm of light, and also Alario cast our own
I'm not saying we're
supernatural
having
ritual that
fun.
dispelled most of what death magic was left across the mortal realms. He just can't catch a break, can he? Now he's once again reduced to not having a body and has less control over his minions than ever before. And thus have we finally reached the end of the story of Nagash, the great necromancer. Definitely. For real. this time.
100%.
Certainly. Absolutely. At least until he knits his body back together. What? I just called him the Great Necromancer. You gotta stop falling for this gag. Anyway, there's the story, but why don't we end off with some rules and such? A sort of mini do or don't, yeah? Lore-wise, take Nagash
Alright.
if you want to have the end-all be-all boss of your faction on the tabletop, and if you want someone who's just straight up an evil dickhead, then there's no better choice for you. Plus, he's undead, and the undead in Warhammer are awesome. No sparkling vampire BS here, just fangs, evil magic, and a whirlwind of violence. Imagine
Can I just say, like, granted, I've never read Twilight, watched the movies. The sparkle thing seems like such a cop-out. But they also need just a way to explain why vampires can just go out anywhere, you know?
putting Ainz from Overlord on the table, only not pathetic in all ways but his power
The
level.
problem when you make
Nagash
your
hands it
protagonist
up
a
at
high
every
school
moment.
girl.
If you want a villain that steals the show because of how unnecessarily evil he is, here you go. As for
Also, might I say, after a while, I got kind of bored of Overlord. It kind of drifted away from, at least the part I was on, they like really drifted away from like the main cast and just started doing like all this crazy like world building shit. Like, okay, I mean that's cool. Fresh Lulu's really cute, but you can we get back to Ainz?
his rules, well, he's the god of the dead. Unlike how he is in the lore, he's no goddamn
At least
pushover here.
Albedo.
16 wounds, 10 bravery, 9 inches of movement, and a 3+ save means that he's faster than Eldar infantry and he's gonna tank almost whatever you throw at him. He can cast and unbind up to 9 spells, degrading down to a minimum of 4 if you take away 13 wounds, which good luck with that. Naturally, he gets a bonus to casting and unbinding spells because he's the god of death, and to put it bluntly, you're joining his domain whether you like it or not. He has a ranged weapon in the form of his death glare, which causes d6 wounds because he's such a stone-cold motherfucker, and 3 different
just
melee
looks
weapons
at
to
you.
choose from just to really
His
put the
smolder
hurt on.
kills
His
you.
melee weapons hit pretty hard, not the hardest in the game, and anything next to him is certainly going to be feeling it. Of course, as is fitting for a necromancer, his magic is
Wizard,
what you really want him
War
for.
Master,
He knows all the
Fly,
spells
Companion.
from the faction army he joins, and he can't join any of them since, again, he's their god. But let's just look at his personal abilities. For the baseline level of BS he can always unleash. He can either heal 15 wounds worth of damage or bring back 15 models from the dead, depending on what he's casting on. In a war game where chaff units are incredibly useful for tying down the enemy until they're inevitably destroyed and can make or break a game depending on how they're used, Nagash simply says, no, these skeletons are not going to be leaving the table. He can give a unit a boost to their ward save when it's the combat phase. On a roll of 6,
It reminds me of this old like Skyrim animation somebody did of like a paladin versus like a necromancer or something. And it's like this huge like big scale like battle. And the paladin, like all his dudes were dead. And then he straight just revives them all.
For a saved wound, he reflects it right back at the person who was trying to hurt him. Soul Stealer lets him brutalize enemy units and heal himself in turn, so if you don't kill him in a single turn, he's just gonna come right back to full health. And of course, my personal favorite, Hand of Dust.
Hand of
Within
Dust.
3 inches of him, pick a model. If you successfully cast the spell, and you're almost certainly going to, especially if he's unwounded, take a dice and put it in one of your hands behind your back. If they don't pick the hand with the dice in it, the model is just dead. No ward save, no retreating, just gone. Reduced to
That's
atoms.
wild.
If they don't have a rule that's more or less specifically designed to prevent this from happening, like
Joke's on
Godhood
you,
or
it's in my
Arcane,
ass.
they simply cease to be. I absolutely love how this isn't just roll a dice and not a 4 if they die, because functionally that's the same thing. They make it so you have to pick which hand it's in, which just makes me imagine some stupid Death Note level mind games going on. Like the player using Nagash is like, he knows I picked my right hand last time I used this and will be expecting my left hand.
It's
Thus,
in
I
your
use my
right hand. How
once
did you
more.
know?
And the other guy's
Because
like,
you
I know
always
he
pick
picked his
right
hand,
hawk.
so surely it would be in his left now. But he might be expecting me to know that, so he must surely have put it in his right
Which, by the
hand.
way, if
But
anyone
what
ever
he
wants to
expects
beat me in
to
rock,
assume
paper,
this and
scissors,
put
I
to
will
his
tell you
left
I
because
always
of
pick
this?
rock.
It's such a stupid
It has
little
such
thing,
a
but it's just
crazy
fun to
high
imagine
like
it
win
going down
rate.
like that.
They
There's
never
no
expect
rolling,
it.
you have to play
Even
the
when
Games
it's like
Workshop
I
mandated
shouldn't
mind
do it.
games. Anyways,
I do
lore
it.
flaws. He's a douchebag, so by picking Nagash, you are forfeiting any rights you have to the moral high ground. Yes, even if your opponent is the Skaven or Chaos, all that does is make everyone equally an asshole. Of course, that has its own appeal, but if you aren't looking for the absolute bottom of the ethical barrel, then don't go for Nagash. Also, as you may have noticed, Nagash
It's
loses
Warhammer.
a lot of his
Why
lore.
would I
True, a
think
lot
of
this is
ethics?
because he's the god of the dead and therefore just resurrects himself later, but it still makes him look like a bit of a punk. So while the numberless horde of undead angle has your back, the leader of that numberless horde gets his nose bloodied a lot more often than not. I guess he doesn't lose as often as the Skaven do, but it's funny and destructive when they lose, whereas it's just kind of pathetic whenever Nagash loses once again. As for rules, there are still
Slink
some
away,
flaws he has
Nagash.
despite what he's got going for him. That degrading stat line means he gets worse as time goes on, and if you aren't careful, that just means that you might throw him into a situation without realizing he's no longer prepared for it. Soul Stealer
Reminds
can
me
help
of like
mitigate this, but you still
Arachne
shouldn't
from
put him into a
Smite
melee
back in
fight
the
with
day.
Gotrek or
You're
Arcane.
super good in
Not
the
that I
early
should
game,
have
so you
tell
need to
avoid
capitalize if
getting
you
into a
wanted to
melee
like
fight
stay
with Gotrek.
competitive
It's
at
like
the
telling
end.
someone don't
game.
stare at the sun for too long. And while his wounds and save do make him tanky, cannons are going to grind him into bone meal. Artillery of any sort is the bane of his existence because they reduce his save and make it so that his wounds almost don't matter. Because with enough D6 damaging shots, it's not going to matter if he makes 1 or 2
Monkeys
of those
with plastic
saves. Additionally,
spoons.
certain casters are going to make him look almost useless, namely Techless. If your opponent is running Techless, just forfeit. While Techless can only cast half as many spells, he has a guaranteed casting value of 10 minimum, so whatever he's shooting is going off. This is on top
Fucking
of Techless
Techless.
being able to auto
He just sounds like he's not fun to play
turn
against.
and make it just not happen. True, if Nagash gets into melee range of any caster, he's going to send them straight to Shyish, Techless included, but if he can't, the upper tier ones are going to make him look a bit silly. And given that there's decent odds there will be an entire battle line between Nagash and the enemy Magic Man, well, he also doesn't really buff his army, so you're bringing Nagash for Nagash and not to help out other units, healing aside. Lastly, his price. 955 points means that if you aren't playing a large-scale game, he's just not showing up. Like, at least Big Turtle could show up in a game under 1500 points and feasibly not tank the army to uselessness, but Nagash will do just that. And even in larger point games, you are paying out the ass for him. He's almost certainly going to make up half, if not more, of your points allowance, so if you use him, you really need to know how to make
It's like that with
and with that, I am finally
Yuki Dami Mami.
done talking about Nagash, Warhammer's biggest douchebag. There's a whole list of things he's done solely
That's an
via
accomplishment.
Brick, but I'm not going to list all of them. If you want, though, go to 1D4chan. At the bottom of his page is a list of the various things he's done for no reason beyond being petty and evil. It's a long list. As always, thank you to my wonderful channel members. You are the books of Nagash to my Nagash, allowing me to continue Nagashing for the times to Nagash. Such is the power of Nagash. If you'd like to support the channel, feel free
Praise
to become a
Nagash.
member or subscribe. Theoretically, hitting like also helps me, but I've yet to discover how. Either way, thank you for watching and take care out there.
Righty.
Nagash, 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 Nagash.
Oh, Nagash, 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 Nagash. Hey guys, Rodhawk here after the reaction. I'm trying something a little bit new here for the reaction videos. This is just a little segment I have after watching the video and digesting it. I'm kind of just thinking a little bit more of it. Either because I learned something new by the time I post this, or I'm just too dense to, you know, bring it up during the reaction, or to realize it. Admittedly, I'll start with this. Admittedly, near the end, it was a little overwhelming, especially near the tabletop rule section. So if I got a little quiet, that's why. I was just trying to like soak in the information that was hitting me. Plus, it was also during the Digimon Time Stranger launch stream, So I was a bit smidgen distracted by that as well. Go watch that. It should be on YouTube now. And so, funny enough, while I was editing this video, I just had something on in the background. I was actually listening to Clark Ashton Smith's Zothic cycle. Zothique cycle series. And it kind of had that same vibe, funny enough. I was like trying to find something in the mood for that, and I found a bunch of them, like a bunch of audiobooks online. A lot of short stories about a dying world, very much death-centric, kind of like Nagash's themes. Smith was one of the big, like, circle of eldritch horror guys after Lovecraft. Did a lot of, like, Lovecraftian horror after Lovecraft passed. I mean, even one of his stories is called The Empire of the Necromancers. That's a good one. So go ahead and read those if you kind of like that necromancy vibe. I know I do. And then you just add that like sword and sandals vibe to it as well. I love that. I even brought up like the Dark Sun books as well, which kind of has that kind of like harsh desert wasteland vibe. And then you just add the necromancy in there. Just a really cool vibe. I do really like the Tomb Kings. In a past video, I did mention that Tomb Kings is up there. So far, and admittedly, I haven't watched much. So far, I think my top favorite factions are obviously the Tomb Kings and the Dark Elves. Finally, I just wanted to point out, because I feel like the video didn't really stress this from what I've gathered, and I didn't really bring it up, is Nagash is the top dog in his empire when everyone is literally the rightful heir to the throne and they're all undead and can't die. So props to the Mummy Man. And if you made it this far in the video and you're actually listening to all this extra stuff, let me know how you feel about it if you kind of like this. I'll bring up some other stuff. I know there's like a Space King video I have as well. And I learned some stuff after the video because I was kind of curious because it felt like that video ended. So I had some more insight to that. But yeah, let me know how this segment feels. I'm not really a fan of like reaction videos where as soon as the video ends, as soon as the reaction video ends, the video ends. So hopefully this will kind of like flesh it out more and give it a little bit more credence and respect and make it a bit more transformative. So yeah, take care everybody. And here comes the outro. My hand. I've gotten a few ideas for this.